Welcome to Rising Woman Leaders. I'm your host, Myrah, and I believe the time has come for women to share their gifts, their voice, and their stories. I love seeing women spiritually and financially empowered, thriving in their life's work, and doing what they love every day. I've gathered a community of women living their dreams to tell us their stories and inspire us to step into more courage, self-love, and feminine leadership. If you like this podcast, use the hashtag RisingWomanLeaders. Follow me on Instagram at Meredith Ram and sign up for email updates at risingwomanleaders.com to get all the new and inspiring content. Now get cozy with a journal and a cup of tea. I hope you enjoy today's show. Hey, well, welcome back. I'm here today with Myra Peñalosa. And Myra recently followed her heart from California to Canada. She is a clothing designer, Kundalini yoga lover, and educator. She's obsessed with banana pancakes, sharing tea, her 7-month-old daughter Soleil, and women's circles. Myra is the co-founder of Edmonton-based Bloom Festival, which is celebrating its 5th annual production October 5th through 8th. Her Kundalini yoga-inspired clothing line has been adorned by women across the entire globe. She has also founded a women's circle network that is in 5 different countries called La Luna Social. Myra has been teaching Kundalini yoga for close to 10 years and has taken over 900 hours of yoga teacher training. She's led retreats around the world and is currently planning a retreat in Spain called the Bloom Retreat in February. Her mission is to create space, opportunities, and experiences to empower women. So thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, and I just wanted to let you know that, coming to find you, I think it was through Instagram, and just seeing everything that you post there is so vibrant and also just authentic, when you're sharing. I was telling a girlfriend earlier that I'm going to be interviewing you, and she was like, "Oh, I have such a crush on her." And it was just so sweet that, what you're putting out there is really being felt.
Oh, that's good to hear. You don't always get that, information from the outside world. You're like, does anybody hear me?
I know. I feel that too sometimes. But yes, you never know who it's reaching. And yes, I know that definitely in my community of women, you have, made an impact. So it's wonderful.
It is.
Yeah. Well, I would love to just start with going back. You've been teaching yoga for 10 years, Kundalini yoga. How did you come to find yoga? What was that like for you?
Well, it was kind of like I stumbled upon it in a sense. So I grew up in California, and I was very, in the sports-minded realm of things. I played sports. I used to play soccer, and I got into college, and I was playing on the college team, and I got injured one, scrimmage summer afternoon. And my coach suggested I go and do some stretch therapy. And at the time, it wasn't called yoga. They called it stretch therapy. And I was like, oh, okay, great. This is fun. And so I was told to take some rehabilitation and just kind of, just do some stretching, stay off your feet and all these kinds of things. And I kind of all of a sudden was pretty moved by this stretch technique, and I didn't reach much more into it because I didn't really know how to research more. But then that was just the summer of going into college, and then as I got into college, I was doing world religious studies, and one of the religions that really spoke to me was Hinduism, Sikhism, Sufism, all these mystical, magical, religions. And they touch on yoga, but very the ins and outs of the yoga practice, and they talk about the yogis and the bodhisattvas and the babas and all these kinds of really mystical things that kind of really resonated with me, because as a child, my dad would read me books on the Rinpoches. So these beautiful books on these monks that were living these really amazing lives out in the middle of like the Himalayan mountains, and like all their rituals and their ceremonies. And there was like a bedtime story that my dad would share with me, essentially, well, with us, my brother and my sister and I. But to him, it was kind of funny because I talked to him about it now. I'm like, because of you, I'm like this. But, I digress. So I jokingly would say, like, because of you, I'm like this. And from like his sharing of these stories, like got me inspired into like, this Eastern way. And so through the little bit of the threads and the ins and outs of like getting injured and going to this stretch therapy, and then like showing up again in world religious studies. And then finally I got into this meditation cult, and I'm going to call it a cult because that's what it is. I'm just going to be authentic with it. And it's called The Fourth Way. And it is with Guru Jeff. I don't know if he's a familiar, I guess, teacher of our time right now, but he was very prominent when I was in college. Like, maybe he's long past, but it was kind of like a meditation thing that you would, go into or be introduced to, or for whatever means. And so I was going to this meditation cult, gathering, once a week. We'd sit, we'd talk about our thoughts and our meditation practice, but it wasn't asana, it wasn't movement or kriyas or anything like that, or mantra. It was just pure meditation. And then a really good girlfriend of mine, who's still a really good girlfriend of mine until this day, she just introduced the opportunity, the possibility of going to do a yoga class after doing a hike. And I lived in LA at the time, and it was at Runyon Canyon. You do like this hike up the mountain, and then at the bottom of the mountain on your way down, there was always a yoga class happening at 7 a.m. And I was like, oh, that sounds epic, sweet. So we do our hike, come down, do the yoga class, and I was so moved by the teacher. Like, she was just like this embodiment of like everything that I wanted to be. Like, she had this poise and this grace and this like, articulation of how she like, delivered a message of like how to move your body. And it was just so moving to me. And I was like, wow, like I'm so mystified right now and like in a trance. And because of that, my girlfriend, her name is Angela, she was like, I really want to go to this, yoga studio. I haven't been going to it in a really long time. And I was like, oh, I'll go with you. Like, that'd be great. And so the yoga studio at the time was called Golden Bridge. It doesn't exist in LA anymore. It exists in New York now only. And it was one of Gurumukh's first yoga studios, and it used to be off La Cienega in Fairfax at the time. And it was my first Kundalini yoga experience. So imagine I go from like stretching therapy to like world religious studies, learning like the ins and out of like kind of the moral compass of a yogi in a sense. And then I go into like, I would consider it more of a hatha class, the experience that I had at the park after the hike. And then from there into full blown, like everyone's wearing white and it's like a turbine and sheepskins everywhere, this like massive big open space, like, and tonkas everywhere and like Buddhas everywhere and like the Virgin Mary on one side of the room and like this, creepy man, Yogi Bhajan, on one side of the room. All these like beautiful kind of like meshed religions all in one space, and I was just like, and then you kind of felt a little bit of this like vibrational energetic reorganization in like your energetic body. And at the time I didn't have an idea, like I had a little bit of an idea of that element, but I didn't know it was real or attainable or graspable or experimental, I was very naive. I was like 19, 18 at the time. And I was just like completely moved by the practice. Like I think the practice was only about an hour and a half, and it was a Wednesday. So I remember because Tuesday we went to this Runyon in the Park yoga class or yoga experience in the park. It was a Tuesday morning. And then the next morning, Wednesday, we went to this 9:30 a.m. Kundalini yoga only for women. And Tej Khalsa, she taught this class. She offered this class. And again, she was like my first like introduction to Kundalini yoga. And she, like, it was almost as if she came up to me and just shook my whole body until like I felt elated, until I can fully relax and not fight anything and just like, turn my body into mush,
Mm-hmm.
And it just removed the veil of like what can truly be possible, and attainable.
Mm-hmm.
It made all of the Rumi books, it made all of the Hafiz books, it made all of these like, esoteric books become more of a reality in my life. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that was like my first experience of yoga. And I knew that this was going to be something that like was not just trending for me, it was going to be like one of my building blocks to who I am.
Mm.
And then through that, like I met one of like a teacher and a dear friend as well. Her name was Kia Miller, and I had met her through the yoga community at the time. And I think I was working at Yoga Works. No, yeah, at Yoga Works, and she was like, you should really go to apply. So before I get to there, I'm like jumping the gun. So because I was so moved by the Kundalini yoga practice, I wanted to learn everything, the ins and outs, and was like really moved by it. Mm-hmm. So I did Seva work. So I'd go there after class or after my studies, and I'd work there for like at least like 5 hours. And I just like do like Seva, like the upkeeping of the studio, the cleaning of the mats, the cleaning of the bathrooms, and like all that kind of stuff. And for me, it was like such a gift because through that Seva work, I was able to actually participate and dive into a teacher training experience. And I thought, in that time, like I didn't realize the value in it because it was quite expensive at the time. It was like $3,000, $5,000 to do a teacher training. And now, I mean, it's still around there, but it's more attainable now, right? Because the magnet on the planet is much more graspable. Where back then we weren't quite there at that conscious level where it's not poverty, but it's prosperity. Do you see what I mean? Mm-hmm. So with that said, like I kind of was very fortunate to be able to go to the studio, do my Seva work, and then on the weekends go and participate in the teacher training and learn more of this practice that was just going to change my life. Mm-hmm. And so I was working for the studio, and then, one of my girlfriends was like, she had just moved to Los Angeles and she got a job at Yoga Works. And she's like, hey, they're looking for a manager. Do you want to apply? Like, you've been working at Golden Bridge, but you're not making any money. Like, come on. And so I went into that direction and started working at Yoga Works, still doing my practice at Golden Bridge. But while working at Yoga Works, I got introduced to like the Vinyasa yoga and the Ashtanga yoga and like all these kind of very physical practices, which again, coming from a sports background, that was very much like something that like, whoa, this is very like amazing. Like it's going to challenge me in a different way, even though I can hold my arms up here for like an hour and like feel great. This is like something new and like exciting. And so I started practicing Ashtanga yoga. And with the Ashtanga yoga, I became, again, very like committed to it, and I wanted to learn the ins and outs and did my teacher training with that. Wow. And yeah, and through like every yoga facet that I experienced, I just always kind of wanted to dive in a little bit more. And I ended up actually dropping out of college because it just wasn't meshing. Like I ended up going into religious studies with a minor in kinesiology therapy. So the intention was to go into sports medicine, sports therapy. So I did an internship at UCLA Sports Clinic and at University of Riverside Sports Clinic. And I was just basically waiting for people to get injured, right? And it wasn't like it was habilitating and, treating prevention. It was more like wrapping Band-Aids. So I'm like, this is just not in alignment with me anymore. So I dropped out of college, didn't tell my parents, but I was in this pursuit of like the yoga practice. Mm-hmm. And like, I'm going to be a yogi. Like, my intention is to like, practice so that I can really, teach and offer from a place of experience. And so I just started kind of living this very vagabond life in the middle of Santa Monica. And it was quite interesting because it was almost like I was living almost like a life that was a bit taboo, like not telling my parents that I've like dropped out, but like, doing all these teacher training programs and like still being studious, but not at the caliber that they were expecting me to be studious in. Mm-hmm. And then and then the day came where it was like, okay, like it's time for me to go to India, because every yogi has to like go to India. Right? It's part of the prerequisite. So I was like my first, I need to like tell my dad, like I need support, and this is what I'm doing. This is where I'm going. And we had this conversation and I was like, Dad, I really feel called to teach yoga. And, I got this opportunity to go and assist my girlfriend, Ashley Albrand, in Goa, India, on a yoga retreat. I would love to go, but I just, the airfare is expensive. Can you spot me and I'll pay back? It just came up and I just kind of had to say yes. And he was like, what about school? And I was like, well, surprise. I'm actually taking a sabbatical is what I called it. I was like, I'm taking a sabbatical to like find myself. And he's like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, all those books that you used to read to me, like I feel like I'm living them right now. And he's like, those are just fables. And when he said that, I was like, oh my God, Dad, you're so cute. Like, you're so innocent, because he honestly thought they were just stories. They were just like fables, like had no truth to them at all. And I was like, no, Dad, that's real. Like transcending meditations, that's real. And to have that conversation with my dad and really be like authentic and real with him and just clear the slate was so profound and elevating for me that my trip to India was just like no regrets, and really just kind of finding myself and finding like truth in the experiences that I was just about to like experience, right? And it's funny what they say, like, you try to like run away from yourself, but then there you are. Mm-hmm. For me, it was like every time I would go out and be in a different country and facilitate different, yogic functions, it was like I couldn't be anybody else but like my true self, because I had to be present in every moment, because I wasn't, in the relaxation of the leaning back into like my habitual patterns. So going to India was like, and like I guess, it would be more like this has soul, this has roots to you. Like, it felt like home, like, oh, I'm home. I'm here. Like, this is incredible. And for me, in my experience in India, everything, like, time is not linear. Like, everything happens so fast and things manifest so much quickly. And like, you think about the donkey and then there's the donkey, and then like you're looking for the emerald ring and then there's the emerald ring. And it's just like, it's so fast and it's so instant that when I got back, I kind of stayed in that frequency and things started happening right away. Like, I got, teaching opportunities at Yoga Works, teaching opportunities at, I don't even know if these yoga studios are still around, but it was Yogis Anonymous, and other yoga studios that were just like, oh, welcome back. Like, we're looking for like a permanent teacher for the next 4 months. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, and it just, I was basically living it. I was a full-time yoga teacher. But granted, I was like biking from one corner to the next, to make it to like, I was teaching like anywhere between 15 to 20 classes a week. And then my personal practice started to falter because in that there was no self-maintenance, no self-care, because I didn't have a car at the time. So I would just bike to from Silver Lake to Venice to Santa Monica to Culver City, back to Santa Monica, back to Venice. It was just this constant, energetic fuel that wasn't really being nurtured in the way that was authentic to teach from.
Yes.
And so then I had to okay, I need to take some time and self-care, and truly separating myself and taking time to self-care was the Kundalini yoga practice. As much as I love teaching the vinyasas, and I love teaching and leading the lead classes for Ashtanga, or assisting adjustments and all those things, what really nourished me and fueled me was my Kundalini practice. And at the time, because it wasn't very much not to say that it's popular, but it's coming up to the light a little bit faster now, and it's almost like it's debunked a lot of its misconceived notions of what's seemingly cultish about it. You know what I mean? But it's that's nothing to do with being a cult. It's just the way that the garb is that is a bit off-putting. But I would always it was my secret practice. It's the thing that I do, that nobody knows about, or that just is this is my secret, little energy shot. And then finally I started to just share it more with my girlfriends. I would be hey, every Wednesday, let's go to this women's class that Tej is teaching. And I would take 3 or 4 girlfriends, or I'd call it a class en masse kind of thing, where I was just yeah, let's just, come, let's just do a class together and bring all the girlfriends, and so that we can talk about it later and decompress and all these kinds of things. And it was really, really fun and fueling for me, and to get to the point to where I was, after India, where all these opportunities came up, I did dabble in some other work that allowed me to deepen my practice in the yoga space, right? I was going to mention that my friend Kia Miller had told me oh, go and apply for this new company that's opening up, from Canada. And I was oh, what is this? And at the time she called it Lululemon, and it was Lululemon. And I was oh, you want me to be a lemon server, a lemon juice server? This is what my mind went to. And I was I'm really bad at being a restaurant person. When I think I had one hosting restaurant job, and I got let go because I talked too much. I just talk too much. I'm sorry, just people. And but anyways, I was I can't serve lemon juice. That's not what fuels me. It's not my passion. I want to be in the yoga space. She was no, it's a yoga clothing company, but they have this whole other way of going about selling clothes. They offer yoga classes for the community. It's just opening up. You should look into it. They have this, managing positioning opening. You should look into it. And I'm okay, great. So I go to the group interview, got hired the next day, the Santa Monica store location, one of the first in the States. And so I kind of help, cultivate that environment and bring on ambassadors. I was there for about 4 years maybe. But the whole time that I was there, they supported my trip to India. They supported myself, growth, my personal development. It was pretty amazing. So I got really gifted a lot of opportunities in just following my path through yoga, through it all coming to this one point, and to be able to have these, job titles without even having a college degree, it was pretty fortunate too for me. I managed a yoga studio, I assisted managed a brand store that's $1 billion company right now, and I joke, because this is just segueing into another realm of things, because when I coach people, they're oh, I really want to get, certified in this, and I really want to get my degree in that, and I really want to go back to school to get this. And I'm but you can really just start doing it now. You don't, I mean, yeah, that's going to feel good to have it and to like mount it on your wall and say like, oh yeah, look at me, I got this thing. But you already have the information because you're experiencing it, you know? Mm-hmm. And I feel like too, that's kind of a difference between the Piscean age and the Aquarian age, where the Piscean time was all about like studying and getting in the information and like, you know, everything from the exterior and absorbing. And now this Aquarian age is all about experiencing it. It's like, okay, you take everything you learned from the Piscean time and now apply it, share it, you know? So back to the thing. So from there, from all these opportunities of being, you know, able to just like work on myself and like feel supported and like my dreams, you know, doing yoga teacher trainings and facilitating yoga teacher trainings and traveling to India and traveling to different parts of the world to help, you know, create content for the yoga practice was a very amazing gift. And that was all in my early 20s. You know, that was all in my early 20s. And then finally, after meeting my husband and really, like, I was at a place where I was like a bit jaded. You know, every yoga teacher that I admired was either sleeping with a student or like, you know, not living in alignment. And not to say that that's not acceptable because we're human, you know, we're not like above anybody else. But for me, I was really in a place where I was like, oh man, like, who's my teacher now? You know, where's my teacher now? And again, I would lean back into the Kundalini practice. And it would be Gurumukh or Tej Khalsa, you know, and there were two women that were really like, for me, I mean, I don't know in the shadows, but for me, they were just like authentically, you know, in transparency. You know, they didn't have to fluffy the language when they were delivering a class. Didn't have to like be someone else when they were off the mat. You know, it was always, whenever you saw Gurumukh, you got the same Gurumukh that you got in front of the class, that you got when you ran into her at Cafe Gratitude, that you got when you know, were passing by on exiting the bathroom. Like, it was constant, the same. So there was a calling in the sense that I wasn't really listening. It was just like, this is your practice. This is your practice, you know. But I was so attracted to the fancy postures. You know, I was so attracted to like stretchy pants. Oh, you know, and being from like, again, that competitive mindset of sports, and also as a preteen and going into high school and a little bit early into college, struggling with like body dysmorphia, you know, and like needing to look a certain way to like feel good, right? And like realizing like, no, I don't have to be the same image that is portrayed every time, you know, and being okay with like, you know, this other practice that actually makes me feel good, you know, and like, and refreshed, you know, and new every time, just felt so good for me. And I even tell my students now, because they're always like, oh, but I really love the asana practice, and but I'm really interested in Kundalini, and I'm always just like, do both. Like, why do you have to choose? You know, and that's a thing that's a big struggle for people that I've having conversations that I've been kind of being faced up against. Is it's like this, like, well, I can't do both, you know, and I'm just like, but you can if you feel drawn to one, and like just alternate, like it just, if it feels good in your body, do both. Like for me, like after having my daughter, bliss up until the 3rd month, and then a little bit of a dip, a little bit of like postpartum depression, and it was just like, whoa. And I've never been depressed in my life, so I didn't know what that was. And I even looked at my husband, I was like, I think I'm depressed. I don't know, but I don't feel like myself. And then he's like, well, you haven't been moving. We did the 40-day stay after she came in. And then soon right after, we went to California to go see my mom and to have my father meet my daughter. And all those kinds of family like duty obligations. And then coming back, I think feeling the realization that like, oh, I'm so far away from my mother, like, whoa, that it was just like kind of like that severe drop. And I think a lot of it in my experience and experimenting had to do with lack of movement, And so I went back into like my hatha practice and started moving, started going to vinyasa practice, starting to feel strong again, and I still do my sadhanas every day. It's for me, I feel like it's just a really good time to utilize all your tools.
Yeah.
Utilize everything that you have, and sometimes that tool is going to get rusty, and then you pull it out and you polish it and you like apply it again, or you just put it aside. But because we have so many options, I like to dabble in all. But that's also my rebellious mind. Where it's like, even in the beginning of it all, when I told you that I was, part of this cult, this meditation cult, they were also very serious. They were like, no Kundalini yoga, and only do this meditation, and da-da-da-da-da. And I like to test boundaries, so I still did everything else. And I still did that. And I actually was a part of that group for a really long time, up until I moved to Canada. Because there's not a group in Canada, like, I haven't been a part of it. But anyways, digressing.
Yeah. Wow. Well, yeah, let's pause for a moment. So much. And so
this is me all the time.
Yeah, so on the forum, when I was like, what do you want to talk about? You're like, everything.
And that's the thing, I do care. That's why it's like everything, like, what is there not to talk about?
Well, I just wanted to share that I really relate to a lot of your story, and even just some parallels between what you were going through in your early 20s and things that I was finding and becoming. For me, like, I moved from New York to California, and it was just like the beginning of my path. Things started manifesting. I met Amma very soon after I moved to California, and that moment for me of like being in the temple and feeling the different energy and like having a hug, and that was so much reminding me of what you said the first time you went to your Kundalini class, just like your eyes open of like, what is all this? And but soon after, I became a yoga teacher, did seva, work trade, and went to India. And it's like that. It's kind of like, and when you're in India, just the magic and things that start manifesting and coming to you, and you're in this different frequency, and coming back, it's like, the yoga has just led me on this very winding path but also just like one thing to the next of exactly where I'm supposed to be. And it's so beautiful to trust in that, the surrender. And I love how you just started helping people through what you felt called to do and you're passionate about. It's like, okay, I don't necessarily need X, Y, and Z credentials in order to get to the place where I really want to help people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Especially when people just keep showing up, and it's like, we have Google, and it's like, okay, let's see, and then you also have a network of people that like, the 6 degrees of separation. It's like one person through one knows, and all of a sudden you're like, texting with a neurologist, and you're just like, this is happening with my student, and like, how do we like, her endocrine system is out of balance. Like, how do we like reorganize that, and it's that time where we have a lot of information at our fingertips. It can also be a bit debilitating because we're overwhelmed by so much information. Like one of my teachers calls it info dementia, where it's like, it's too much and you're flatlining. But if you know how to use it to where it's not excessive and it's for the greater good of yourself and everyone involved, like the intention for this conversation, then it serves a purpose. And then you're allowed to like communicate it. Otherwise there's so many things that like stand in the way.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I would love to hear a little bit more about becoming a mother, because I know that this is, so fresh and dear to your heart. I did, I read your birth story and all of that, kind of was following when you were pregnant and just seeing the stages. And I'm also curious to hear about, you said the first 3 months was like bliss, and then you noticed some dips in your energy, and also just running a business on top of having a baby. And I just want to hear whatever is like present for you around motherhood.
Oh man, I'm one to just like do it on your own. Like my relationship with support, I really came like face on with it. Like what support looks like and how to ask for help was like a lesson for me. So that's what's really like present for me at the moment, is like being able to ask for help when you need it. Like it has been a huge lesson for me. Like, get over yourself. You need help. And be able to not feel guilty for asking for support. Like sometimes, like my husband, he's just been such a god. Like that's all I can say. Like above and beyond. Like taking care of. Like I'm like almost through this cold. You can hear it in my voice. I'm almost through this cold, and he's just like shown up so 100%. And he does this time and time and again when I need him, and I don't even verbalize it, And then even in my community of women and mothers, like they just show up and like, this is what's helped me, and this is what, has made me, cure this thing or uproot this thing. And it's like the information has been so abundant with like how much help I need, and not realizing that, because nobody talks about it. Like, oh, you're going to need a tribe, you're going to need a village. Like, and you hear about the slogan, like it takes a village to raise a child, but you don't understand it until you're really in it. And then that for me was like a very like, oh my gosh, yeah, especially when you're sick. Like I cannot, like that's a luxury right now. Like I cannot get sick ever again, and it's like, that's because you had too many things on the go, and the universe was like, sit down, you need to stop. No, yeah, I hear you. Like it's totally true. But leading up to like this realization of like help is such a like a powerful tool to access and to convey. Like leading up to that lesson, motherhood has been amazing. Like been truly the most beautiful gift I've ever received. And in my retreats, like in my Bloom retreats, I talk about self-conception, how you are conceptualizing yourself every day. So every morning you get up, and whatever thought is in your mind, that's what you're conceiving of yourself on the daily, right? And so that's what I talk about in my retreats. So with her, she wakes up, looks at me, beaming, just happy baby. And I'm just like, good morning, because it's going to be a great morning, because she's just so happy. And it is. Like she sets that frequency for me, and then I provide it, because, as mothers, we are the baseline frequency of a nation, right? I strongly believe that everything that's conceived of on planet Earth is because of the mother, And I say this because of a Yogi Bhajan quote that I had read a long time ago, and I didn't get it until becoming a mother. Actually, I didn't get it until becoming pregnant. Actually, no. I didn't get it until I was consciously conceiving. I was getting myself ready for like this being, and like clearing my arc line, clearing my archives, clearing my stuff, right? And healing my wounds with my generation, and healing my wounds with my present family, and healing the future wounds that are inevitable, And he had said that an insecure woman gives birth to an insecure child. Mm-hmm. And that insecure child grows up to be an insecure man, leading an insecure nation. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's like, that's what we're living in right now. You know, we have 45 being an insecure man, leading an insecure nation that's slowly starting to step into their own power, right? Realizing, like, I gotta stand for this anymore. And as a mother, it's like, it's a cliche, because you're almost like, wow, like, and how do I explain it where I'm not too passionate about it, but we want these like equal rights, and we want to be the same as men, but it's not possible. We're so different on a whole other, you know, archetype and a whole other form of being that we just can't relate. You know, we're nuts. Like, we have so much like craziness happening all the time because we move with the rhythms of nature. Men are solid and they're strong and they're just consistent, right? They're super linear. We are not. We're in and out, upside down, up and down, like in and around. And it's all the time like that. But if we can harness that and know when we're being neurotic and how we can, you know, flux that neuroses and use it to the greater good, again, for ourselves and, like, you know, the network outside of us, and become a center baseline frequency of what we want in our household, then again, that reciprocates and is felt, and that reciprocation is felt even further, and that reciprocation is felt even further, right? And with this whole becoming a mother, like, has really like landed on me of like what a big responsibility we all have on planet Earth. Like, it was like a really true realization. Like, oh my gosh, like, this is serious. You know, like, I'm responsible for a whole other being. You know what I mean? If I have self-doubts about myself, she's inevitably going to have self-doubts about herself. You know, if I'm in my nagging state and like in my low vibration state in front of her, like, that is what she's seeing. She's no longer seeing me as divine. So now she's picking up on these like subtleties, making that okay for her to be in. And it's like, no. And sometimes, of course, there's glitches within ourselves, and like, you know, I'll have a moment where I'll get really ticked off and like, you know, I'll react, right, instead of like recalibrate and then consciously act. And then I like don't take responsibility for it, and I'm like, Ravindra, like, you're making me like not be divine in front of her, and I get really upset when you do that. And then I'm still in it though. I'm still ranting as I'm holding her, and it's just like, whoa, calm down. Like, slow down, you know, and just recalibrate. But our emotions are so, you know, there are these very strong energetic pulls that just take you up. And look who's up. She's having a nice little snack with her Bubba. Oh, I'll bring her over so you can see. But yeah, being a mother has been a big realization, and it's really a trip. Like, if I can sum it up in one word, it's a trip, and it's a blessing, and it's everything above and beyond. And you would have asked me 5 years ago if you saw yourself being a mother, I would have told you, like, no way. Like, no way. Like, I'm still a child, and like, I could be a mother to like my dog and like my plants, but like, I can't self-conceptualize myself being like a mother to a human being. But then again, that changes, right? Because we're constantly changing. We're like the ebb and flow all the time. And yeah, and then I take a smell of my husband's skin, and I'm like, this is the man I'm going to procreate with. Whoa, this is happening, you know? And so, yeah, like, it's been very elevating, you know, and has given me a lot of altitude about myself and more opportunities to just like really be present and really, really like slow things down. And absolutely, without a doubt, like believe in magic. Like, how magical is it that we create life? How are we not worshipped? Like, how are we worshipped? I'm so confused. And like, my teacher likes to talk about how like, she says like, she uses Beyonce as an example. Like, she's like, Beyonce has like really decided that she, no matter what she does, is going to be like this like magnetic female force on the planet, right? She's a mother, she's a singer, she's, she has a very strong nervous system to be able to like, perform at such caliber and strength, and she likes to say like, that's what's leading the woman's like, riot, that's what's leading the woman's journey. And not to say that there's anything bad about that or anything good about that, but if she's like so strong in her conviction of who she is, why do we self-doubt about our own strength and conviction of who we are? You know what I mean? It's like we all kind of come up to that same level. We don't need to have like the most amazing voice, but to add to that, we need to work on our voice. We work on our sound current, because that's how we command. That's how we, command things into motion.
Right.
So creating a relationship with our voice. Sorry, go ahead.
It sounds like becoming a mother has called you into being more of your higher self, like all the time. Because
without a doubt.
Yeah, stepping into that role, because not only you have this reflection, someone you want to be that person for. Hi, Soleil. But yeah, just, that's exciting to think about motherhood as this way of really stepping into our higher selves as women.
Oh, yeah. And you can't be anybody else. Like, you just can't. Because it's like, they're watching you. The you being upset because, like, Instagram didn't refresh quick enough. You know what I mean? Like, they feel for you. So it's like, just chill out. Don't take yourself too seriously. And don't take the situation too seriously either. And I say this because I'm like constantly working at it. It's a constant practice. Yeah. It's so very much worth it.
Okay. Well, I have just like two more questions that are coming to the mind. One of them is around women's circles. I know this is a big part of your work, and I would love to just hear what women's work and women's circles have brought to your life.
Oh my gosh, sisterhood. Like true sisterhood. Like, no competition, no animosity, no you against me kind of thing. It's just really become like a really strong network of women like supporting each other. Like, and kind of getting into the concept that like my wins are your wins as well. Like, your workshop filling up is like my workshop filling up, and kind of coming to that realization that it's better together. It's sisterhood is better together. And that's how it was in the olden times. And it worked. Rome fell because we doubted the woman. Yeah. Like, I mean, I started them before conceptualizing the idea of becoming a mother or being ready to, have a child. And it was really for my own self-healing around relationships, around my mother, around my own sister. And just strengthening my relationships had to start with my relationship with my mom. And then what that looked like was having more mothers and having more sisters and having more women in my space. So I started to go to like a couple women's gatherings in California, and was really moved by what was felt, what was shared. And I just really wanted to bring that ability to share from a heart space with my mom. And I would kind of like with her, it's very difficult to just kind of share things off the whim. Like you kind of make her believe that it was her idea. Mm-hmm. So with her, like I'd be like, oh, Mom, I'm doing this one thing. Do you want to come? Or I'd like send her links through like Facebook page stuff or things like that. And to the point where now she's like, oh, you know that Spirit Weavers thing that you did a few years ago? Like, I kind of want to go with you. And like, you know, I think it'd be fun. And I'm just like, okay. Like, I don't even like I'm like, wow, why did you come around? Like, I'm just like, okay, I'll like hook us up for next year, you know? But like slowly, like she's starting to get it because again, it wasn't her thing. You know, it wasn't her thing when she was growing up. You know, it wasn't something that was available for her, you know, and it wasn't something that was available for me growing up. But now it's like, you know, I can create it. Yeah, like as like I said, like it takes a village to raise a child. It's like we can all share from our own personal experience of what each individual is going through that might not be the same for, you know, all the women in the room or all the mothers in the room. But then later it starts to show up for them, and now they have like a context place or a reference place where they can feel like, oh, Sarah was going through this, so now I feel like I'm kind of prepared for it. Or Melanie, this happened to Melanie, like I can totally prevent this from happening. You know?
Yeah.
It's pretty great.
It's so relieving to be heard by other women, to know that what you're going through doesn't have to be like a secret or shameful or any of that. It's just like, yeah, have a space to let it out and be seen. And even just that is such a gift.
Yeah, it's been really healing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even like for myself and a lot of women in the group, for sure. Yeah.
Well, I'm curious just what is coming up for you and what you're excited about in your business, and just anything that the people listening might want to learn more about, or, you know, where they can find you, any of that. What's up and current and coming for you?
Ooh, I feel like there's so many things. Well, I'm exploring with different designs for my Kundalini gown collection. I'm going to do a little kids line, little mini Kundalini gown for your baby girls, and maybe some little kurtas for the little baby boys. So that'll be kind of fun. And what else? Well, we have Bloom is what I'm looking forward to. Like my mind is focused on that, which is happening fast in the next 2 months. So I'm really excited about that. We have, again, like one of my teachers is coming down, Gurumukh, who's going to be like talking about living an invincible life, and just really stoked about having her just here in Edmonton, and like really having the opportunity to drop more of these Kundalini yoga teachings here in a place where I'm the only one that has been delivering the teachings, because there's no Sangha here, there's no Kundalini yoga studio, so it's just been me containing that, and it's been quite an undertaking. Like when my last teacher came to visit, Gurumukh, she even asked me, she's like, why aren't you teaching Kundalini yoga? And I'm like, oh, because there's no Sangha. She's like, well, yeah, because you have to build it. And I'm like, oh my God. She's like, it's your duty. And so that pressure was like, oh, she's right. And then I hear like one of the 5 Aquarian sutras, and one of them is like, when the pressure is on, start. So it was like, okay, I have to start offering these teachings. And to be honest, I didn't think I'd have anybody interested. But then I made a little social media post on my Instagram of like, I'm going to start teaching Kundalini yoga. I'm no longer teaching Hatha or Vinyasa. Who would be interested in these teachings? And I got such a big response that I was actually surprised. It's like, oh my gosh, wow, okay. And so from then on, like, it's something that I offer, and I feel really happy about it. So eventually I want to launch like an online service where anybody can basically stream from anywhere, not necessarily have to be here physically, but it'd be fun to just have people drop in through the infodementia of the web.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I'm really looking forward to. Yeah. And then our trip to Spain, we're doing a retreat in Spain. This is going to be like our first like out of the country trip. Like we've done like local trips, like trips to BC, like retreats in BC, and like retreats like outside of like the city, like in like little cabin homes and things like that, but nothing like, you know, crazy far. So we're really excited about that. And then we're going to go visit Mallorca and do some workshops at the Rama Institute in Mallorca, which is one of my teachers' studios out there, which I'm really excited about. And then we're going to do a little like staycation in Bali, which I'm really looking forward to that. And actually that is something that I would need support on because I've never been. So if any listeners out there has any like advice on my...
I went to Bali last year. Yeah. So yeah, I can share some resources for sure.
Mm-hmm. Any like great locations and like places to see, rituals to experience, ceremonies to participate in, like anything holy.
Wonderful. That's going to be so special.
Yeah, so that's what we have leading up, and we canceled a lot of our summer offerings just to, again, slow things down and just be with her at this very sacred stage. They say that before they learn to talk, they actually are communicating, you know, the mystical winds of the unseen world. So kind of be more present to that with her before she starts to talk our language.
Beautiful. This has been such a joy just to get to see you and to know you better. And I wonder if you have any closing words, anything you'd love to just share with the people listening, anything that they can just take away from this time.
Yeah. You'd never doubt yourself, truly. Like I spent a lot of my time doubting myself. And it really does no service to you or anybody else.
Yeah.
You know, if you feel called to do the thing or to go to the thing or to, you know, take the thing, do it. Don't doubt it. Just do it. And it just cuts so much time away from like you actually doing the thing.
Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah, because then the mind will just keep going. You know? Yeah. So just don't doubt yourself. You know, your heart knows. You know, it's the mind that, of course, because we have such a strong negative mind, it wants to keep us safe, and it's great. But at the same time, trust and don't doubt. Yeah,
trust. Yeah. And also what you said earlier, just ask for help, you know, when you need it.
Ask for support. Yeah, because someone will know someone that knows someone that knows someone. And they're like, oh my gosh, okay.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing, you know, the networks that we have that we don't quite realize how powerful they are quite yet until we use them.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, I'll just close this call with coming back to our breath and back to our heart and just breathing in all the wisdom, the insight, anything that has stayed with you from you're just taking away from this time that we've gotten to share. For everyone listening, just to know that there are so many other people in the world who are going through and maybe have gone through things that you may be going through, and that when you start speaking up and using your voice and being in the trust and the sharing, and that you'll find the resources you need. And I'll bring my hands to my heart center and just bow with gratitude, thanking both of you, thanking Myra, thanking Soleil, thanking Ropindra for helping behind the scenes. So I'll bow with namaste.
Oh, namaste, sister. Thank you.
Thanks so much for taking the time to listen to our show today. We would love to hear what you think. Take a moment to hop on over to iTunes and leave us a review. We'd be so grateful to receive it. Until next time, namaste.